HR people of Reddit. What's the most NSFW WTF reason someone got fired from your place of employment? I worked at an amusement park when I was in my teens, and one of the guys they hired to work the game booths was regularly trading the large prizes for blowjobs. He'd go on break, get a BJ, then have the woman come up and he'd pretend they won. Management caught him giving away prizes, thinking he was just giving them away as flirting, but he proudly told them that he traded them for blowjobs. He was 17, the average age of the women were 30, and the giant stuffed bear cost $7 wholesale. A guy I worked with was fired because he worked 3 full-time jobs, and it turned out he was sleeping for 6 hours on his shift. This was on night shift at a Home Depot. He used supplies from the store to build himself a platform above the rug cutting machine, and had a whole setup he slept in for almost a year until he was caught climbing in the machine on camera. We all just thought he was shitty at the job and wasn't getting anything done. He is secretly my hero. CFO of a company I used to work for got to catch a predator meeting up with a 13-year-old at a hotel. He was a gross creep. Woman was providing blowjobs for cash over lunch breaks. The first word mentioned about her lunch breaks, and she asked if she can just quit and leave immediately. We let her do that, lol. Watching porn on his work computer while pleasuring himself in his office. With clear glass windows, I'd like to add. Someone where I worked had a manager fired for cheating on his wife with another employee. His wife also worked at the same company. Edit, they were caught together at work on company property. Dumbest reason ever. Lazy salesperson parked in a handicapped parking spot while visiting a customer. Got a ticket. Tried to get the customer company to pay the ticket. Finally, asked if ticket could go on expense account. Lol. That one went all the way up to the CEO. Fired that Friday. Had a girl yelling at me after I fired her husband. He was a manager at one of my stores. He told her we fired without cause because we were losing money. I let her go on for several minutes, insulting the company, threatening to sue us and all that. Then I let her know he was fired for sexual harassment of a minor. A 17-year-old asked him to get something off a shelf for her. He said only if you suck my dick first with 4 witnesses. A bit of realization set in her face, and she walked out without saying anything. She was maybe 24 years old. Her husband was 36. They had 3 kids. The oldest was maybe 6-7 years old. They thought there was 10 inches in a foot and did a bunch of overheight trucking permits wrong. Example, writing 13.6 feet at 13 feet 6 inches, and ended up delaying the shipment of a crane for a critical construction job, which got the entire trucking company blacklisted. I'm not in HR, but I once worked with a company where they had to fire some people because the CEO caught them having a gangbang in the office after a staff party. Clipping their toenails in the production room. I work in pharmaceuticals. Someone I know had one of her bosses come to her and put a 100 bill on her desk and asked to see her large breasts that he had admired over the years. They let the dude go. Instantly. No charges were filed, but my friend was shaken because this is a man she had almost considered fatherly over the years. Wild. My HR lady got fired for having an affair with someone within the company. They were using their company emails to write each other racy shit. I had to let a guy go from a production line. This was in a small jerky plant, and most of the people on the hand pack line were women. I hired this guy, he presented not crazy like some others, and things were good for a week. The second week there, he didn't like that he couldn't sit until breaks, so he started telling the ladies on the line that he knows how to kill and skin a human, and nobody would miss them in this small town. The women all rushed to my office at break, and I had to call the police before I called him to the plant manager's office. As soon as the offending guy walked in, he said, "I knew them bitches would say something. This plant is majority woman run." I looked at the plant manager, she nodded, and I told him that we had to let him go due to the disturbing things he said, and that he is also trespassed from the plant grounds. The officer followed him out to his car, and that was the last we saw of the guy. He called 2 weeks later asking if he can drop off fundraiser items people bought before he was let go. I told him to leave them at the police station. The items were never dropped off. The people that gave to him were reimbursed by the plant owner. It wrapped up nicely, but at the same time, what the hell? Edited to add a word. A dude got drunk and brought someone back to fuck in the lobby, passed out, and were found sleeping naked by staff the next morning. Not in HR, but an infamous story from my first call center job. One of the workforce supervisors was at the company holiday party and got really drunk. He had a history of alcohol issues. He started to act out and began to hit on another supervisor's wife loudly. Eventually, that supervisor, who was his friend and who was known for being very large and strong, basically put him in a gentle bear hug to try to physically remove him from the situation room and avoid any more embarrassment awkwardness. The drunk workforce supervisor wiggled free and went under a long table where some of the food was set up. He crawled under the whole length of the table, barking like a dog, and then came out from under the table and bit one of the HR generalists on her leg. This workforce supervisor was hired on at my new company a few years later and was horrified that I was there from our old employer, and begged me not to tell anyone what had happened. He had gotten himself cleaned up, fortunately. Not in HR, but had been promoted to head counselor in a children's camp I used to work at years ago. 2 counselors 18F 19M that were staying in the camp, sleeping in the tents with their teams of kids, decided to have sex. This was not allowed on camp grounds, obviously. There were more than 5 places where they could have sex without getting caught. They decided it was a great idea to do it in the tent while a bunch of 5-6-yo kids were sleeping. A little girl woke up, saw them, and ran away screaming because she thought the guy was choking her counselor. So, in the middle of the night, we all rushed out of our tents because a child was screaming and saw the girl running, her counselor chasing her to calm her down half naked with her breast still hanging out, and the guy counselor chasing after them yelling at them to be quiet. They were fired on the spot. I had to make up something to calm the poor kid down, and deal with her understandably furious mother in the morning. QA manager fired for rubbing one out in his car over lunch break, caught on surveillance video. Analytical chemist group leader fired for calling her staff a fat, lazy, N-word. HR director fired for streaming Netflix all day long and her door was closed all day long. She was literally employee 3 at a company that ended up with 100s and thought she was untouchable. IT director fired for botching up a software changeover and crippling 95 of computers for days. Facilities engineer fired for banging logistics girl in the mezzanine. She was married to another guy that worked there. She kept her job but not her marriage. Edit forgot to mention this all happened within 5 years at one company in NC. 2 of our managers were fucking in a porta potty during a company charity event. Guy was running a side business producing adult calendars. Got caught because our sysadmins noticed he was soaking up some ridiculous fraction of our bandwidth. He was downloading astronomical amounts of porn. I fired him on the spot and had him escorted from the building. Then I instructed my secretary to clean out his desk and box up his belongings. She walks out of my office and over to his cubicle. Comes back to my office 30 seconds later and says, "Nope."